Hello and good day, good afternoon, good morning to our monthly Keep Data Private community call. We have Marcel
Hiya.
and my name is Daniela. Hello. Today's topic is around Google, not only Google, but generally big tech and how to de-Google or de-Googlify and some of the thoughts around it. If I may start, Marcel, interrupt whenever you want. But what I've been trying to do over the last few months is to get off Gmail, basically. The alerts that, oh, you're running out of space, even though I have already removed pretty much everything that I thought was on there, makes me think that I don't actually know how much data they have on me. That, in addition to Gemini and other AI tools that are being shoved down our throats, I'd rather move off it. And there are some small wins. For example, getting off the Google Drive has been relatively easy and simple, whereas other things are a little bit harder, such as email. So I'm keeping it open at the moment to receive some stray emails that I haven't managed to move over to other email providers, as well as I find it hard to move some of the old emails off it, especially if there's still open tasks related to them. Google Photos is another one. Somehow, some old photos still keep coming up, even though I had backed them up elsewhere and deleted them, but for some reason there seems to be yet another copy of them. Who would have thought? And so on. And it's harder than I thought. And I now understand why people on social media are so happy when you manage and when you've moved off it. And it's like, oh, it's day one or day zero with a clean slate elsewhere. And I just wonder, how are you getting on with it? Marcel is one representative, but the wider world out there, how are you getting on with moving away from big tech?
I think it's especially big tech based in the US because of the data privacy issues associated with it. I know that just moving your servers so they're physically not located in the US to prevent somebody physically going in and physically taking your data. I mean, there's one aspect of cyber criminals being able to access your data from anywhere, but it's the physical location of the data being in a location which doesn't have data privacy laws in place. And the recent Doge efforts show that anybody can walk into a data center, flash a badge or a piece of paper saying, "No, President Trump told me," to be able to get access to that data. So it's getting your data off the servers that are physically located in the US, and that applies to all US-based companies. I think we've mentioned it before about Proton Mail, for example, being challenged as to where your data is physically located because somebody in the UK had the Microsoft email switched off because they had been involved in the war or prosecuting the war crimes that are going on in Israel at the moment. So it is very real need to get yourself off not just the big American tech companies, but also the physical servers. Even if it's not a big tech company, you may have physical servers located in the US. If you want to get back your control of your own data, if you're still using cloud data service providers. And yes, they're very useful. I mean, one of the main reasons that Google Photos, things like that are so useful is that it's so easy to share your photos with friends because everyone's got a Google account. Whether they use Gmail or not, they've got a Google account. Whether you want to share documents, people have a Google account to share documents and things like that. And I think that's the hardest bit, is getting not just off these services themselves, but actually all the people that you used to interact with, on those services, and getting off them as well. And I mean, one of the things that I keep my Gmail account open for is calendar sharing. That I have. Trying to find another provider that provides the flexible calendar sharing is the issue I have at the moment. But yeah, it is doable, and it's a case of making sure that you get onto platforms that are A, secure, and B, also allow you to do the things that you used to be able to do before. Because a lot of the time, the big hurdle is, but now I'm no longer able to connect with so and so. I'm no longer able to. I think we've spoken about that as well with, for example, WhatsApp trying to move onto Signal. It's really tough because you have to get your friends to get onto Signal as well, so you can keep talking to them. And it's not just the hurdle you have to get off these services; it's the friends and family that you can connect with that you have to get off there as well. But the motivation is there, to help them, get off those services.
Yes, but the challenge also is that I may be a bit more data privacy minded than other people. And if I get
Mm.
off, in my case now, Gmail, as soon as I send an email to somebody from my new account, new encrypted and secure account, if I send it out to somebody who's not on a secure account, then again, that particular email chain cannot be considered secure or encrypted or safe or private any longer. And earlier on, we were talking about, well, wouldn't it be great to have a self destruct in emails, for example, that every recipient gets exactly one chance or two chances to open the email and read it, and then it's gone. Sounds a great idea as a thought experiment. I'm not entirely sure it would actually work in real life, to be completely honest.
I think even if the actual practicalities behind it were in place, the reality, and we've spoken about this before, if you publish anything, if you send an email to anyone, if you share a photo with anyone, that data can no longer be considered in your control, because you don't know what the person you send it to is going to do with that. And even if it is, just a web page on a website that you control, that web page can be, scraped. The beauty of things like the Wayback Machine is that people can't remove things that have been published on the internet. We appreciate the fact that
Yes.
anything that has been published remains accessible, so that we can see what people said and did 10 years ago, so that we don't get gaslit with people saying, "Oh, it never happened." That we don't have the Soviet era style, whitewashing of things, and people being removed from photos, etc., because we have those copies of data that was published, previously. And that's the thing. Once the data is out there, it needs to be considered public. And we've discussed this before. You don't share anything with anybody, including family members, without being aware that this now may be public, right? And we should consider it public once we shared it.
May I just add something that you mentioned the whitewashing, and there are the old Soviet era technique of editing out people, just rubbing them out of photographs, is well documented. So if you're not aware of it, please go and look it up. It's
Yes.
still happening. Just look in the US with Trump saying, "Oh, I never met her. I don't know this woman," or "I've never met Epstein,
Absolutely.
but barely
Yeah.
knew him." And then there is evidence coming to light that yes, he did know him very well. They considered themselves best friends for a very long time. But even though there's evidence to the contrary, he still says, no, it never happened. And there are a lot of people who believe it. So then it really comes down to, in my opinion, making sure that people understand what is evidence, what can be substantiated, and what isn't.
No, I agree. And that's the thing, is that there's a lot of talk about being able to control the extent that you publish something, and we do appreciate, coming back to the Google services, we do appreciate the ability to have our photos backed up, right, into the cloud. We do appreciate the ability to be able to share those photos with select people that we choose to select who we're going to share those with, and those photos are only made available to the family members that we've chosen to share those photos with. And we do appreciate that service, in the sense that the amount that we publish, we have the control as to who can access it. But the reality is that behind the scenes, we are not the ones in control. We still rely on a service provider providing that service. And the mere fact that we have information being published because people hack into those systems and get access to that, you know, the we talk that
Ah,
hack.
yeah.
The people who access that service. So you rely on the service provider keeping your information private, or at least only sharing it with the people that you want to share it with. But we have to accept the fact that once you put the information out there, it could be made public. And you shouldn't be sharing anything with anyone unless you are happy with the fact that if it got made public, that would be okay. You don't want it to be made public, but if it was made public, you should be comfortable with the fact that that information could be out there. So, we have those services that we rely on, and getting off those services is hard because we rely on that additional functionality. But I think the main reason we want to get off these services at the moment is because we don't have that confidence that that service that they're providing, the control of who we share it with, right, will remain within our control. And I think that's why we want to get off these services. It's because we don't trust the fact that they will only make it available to the people that we've chosen to make it available, that the control that we thought we had is within their control to revoke at any point in time. And to claim that some government did. But the cyber hacking option has always been there anyway. There's always the case that the data could have been made available through a security flaw within the system. We've relied on these big tech companies keeping our data private, and they've done a very good job. Let's not give credit where credit's due, but they've not let the data get out. The whole we spoke about the other day, where it was briefly a billion accounts have been hacked and been made public and things like that. But it isn't. It's other services where you've imported your email address and password as your user account and password to someone else's. It wasn't Gmail. As far as I know, Gmail has never been hacked. People have not actually hacked into the Google services and been able to get access to the data.
There's one case that I'm aware of, and I'm not a fan of that person. Just hear me out. But there was one person in the public eye that evidenced and did show that after a controversial or yet another controversial statement, the Google data, so Gmail, Google Calendar, and all of that disappeared for a few days. If you can look it up. It was Jordan B. Peterson. As I said, I'm not a fan, but that was, and I do believe him that it happened. So I don't think it's a made-up story. I do think that this is really what happened, and it was something that was not, as far as I know, and please correct me if I'm not correct here. As far as I know, somebody within Google took it upon themselves to somehow take Jordan B. Peterson's data offline. Somehow, I'm not saying delete it or whatever. I don't know how or if or when he got it back. I do understand him as a business person suffering the impact thereof. Just imagine yourself in that situation, if you please. So there was one situation that I'm aware of. Large scale breaking in, I have not heard of personally.
But I think that's the point, is that where we started with the Outlook email account of someone being disabled because they involved in the prosecution of the war crimes that are going on in Israel. And this is another example. I mean, whatever people's political opinions are, these are individuals whose data, right, has been removed from the system. And I think we want to get off these systems, or at least find alternatives, right? So that we're not dependent on them. And it's a lot easier to do it when we are not under time pressure You haven't had your accounts removed or deleted, or you haven't had your account blocked, and now's the time you want to try and tell all your friends that you've got a new email address. This is how to contact you. And it's because of the fact that we are expecting that kind of thing to happen more often. And I think that's why we want to not just de-Googlify ourselves, but de big American tech ourselves, get ourselves and our data off those big tech services. For whatever reason you can think of, there are lots of reasons for it, including people not wanting their data used for AI. Having service agreements updated without you having to click on a button. It's just been updated, you've been emailed, and you've been told, well, if you don't like it, you can disable your account at any time. I think now's the time to actually take that step and say, disable your account. Get off those systems if you don't want AI accessing your systems. But it's also, if you don't want your account to be deleted by someone who disapproves of what you're saying or doing.
Now, again, I would like to extend or expand the conversation a bit, because we're talking about big tech, and yes, they are often based in the US, but it's coming in the EU as well. Switzerland, not part of the EU, but they also had some interesting suggestions around data privacy laws recently. India, the UK, both of them have GDPR rules that sound very good and decent on the surface, but again, nothing is perfect out there. And everywhere else in the world, data privacy currently is undergoing changes. Some of them I think are great. There's new technology coming out, the technology towards and in favor of data privacy is being pushed, and I love that. On the other hand, there's a lot of, oh, we must look after the children. Our children need data privacy, so we must know who every child is. And this is where I think we need to stop and take a step back and think about what is actually the goal. So yes, big tech is one of the concerns I have for the future, big tech, and especially in relationship to AI and being tracked. When it comes to governments, it's the just being tracked. Let's be honest. The Second World War, Nazi police departments, for example, were good and very much into tracking people so that they would know who has to go to prison first, second, third tier. Soviet Union was not really any different, to be completely honest. So we have different government types, different political agendas, but all of the negative types, what they had in common is tracking people.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. It's not just about moving your Gmail account to a Proton Mail account, because as you said, and we've discussed this before in a previous episode, the access to your data and being able to get access to the data stored on those servers is dependent on the government decisions and rules and regulations. The rules and regulations are changing in the US, pushing people to move their data systems, but it can happen anyway. So I think you're right. It's worth pointing out it's not just about moving on to another email system, but it's about moving on to a system that you can control. And it's hard to do that. Having your own server with your own web server and your own mail server and things like that is doable, but it's hard work. It's not easy to do. And I wonder whether when we first started with the internet and these opportunities became available and you could set up your own web server and you could set up your mail server, and that was the way you did it, because we didn't have these big tech corporations providing an easy way for you to do it. I remember how easy it was suddenly to have a Hotmail account, suddenly have an email address that didn't require the company I was working at to have an email server for me to have an email address. I could have my own personal email address, because those services became available. And I wonder whether, in some respects, we're going back to that, where everyone needs to set up their own web server and their own mail server, which they then physically control, because it's physically sitting in a room that's connected to the the servers and connect it to the internet that way. But you have all the security issues associated with that. You're then responsible for the security issues. You're then responsible for administration and everything else. So it's an interesting question. Are we being forced to go back to the early days of the internet, where everybody had to do their own thing and required you to be tech savvy? And are there going to be easy ways to set up your own mail server and set up your own web server? And I think there are, but it does. We're not quite there yet. It's not. You can't go and say to some non-technical aware person that's got a Gmail account. It's hard enough getting them off Gmail and going onto another server mail provider. Imagine telling them they also have to set up their own mail server now. So it's an interesting move, and how far do we have to go? And how far will
And how fast? How fast will we have to change, and how often will we have to change from one type of service to another one is another consideration, because a lot of tech companies actually don't make money, or don't make money yet. And a lot of them will not ever make it to the point where they are profitable. And if you're not profitable, the future may not look rosy. That is another reality that a lot of people don't think about when they think about technology. Do you see Google, Facebook, or Google Meta, Alphabet and Meta really technically, but they see the big tech, and don't really think about all the small companies that come up with great innovative tools and then get bought up. So not everyone will be making it. There are some great companies out there at the moment, and some of them are profitable, or at a minimum they cover their own costs. But not all of them do, and that means if you're changing to one of those, you may have to change again when they go out of business. Again, something to think about.
or they're located in a country where the data privacy laws change,
Yes.
like Proton Mail. It hasn't happened, but Proton Mail is considering moving out of Switzerland because the data, it was a near call for them to be forced to make the data available to the government on request. So, yeah, and that's also, I think, why at this point there's no point in us recommending, oh, don't use Gmail, use X, because and let's definitely not use X as in Twitter. Let's go with Y. Use Y, or what? Not Y Combinator either. Use anyway. You get my point. It's that because it could be a problem child, next week or next month or next year, and then need to do it all over again. I think it's more important that people actually go out, actually have a look at the options, actually decide what they need and what they want, and that again requires people to be educated, to educate themselves. And like I said, it's hard enough getting people off Gmail. Never mind expecting them also to do the research as to finding an alternative mail provider, or an alternative photo provider, or an alternative calendar provider, or alternative whatever you use provider going forward.
So in summary, think. That's all I'm asking you to do. Think about your I nearly said think about your life choices. Think about what you want in the future. Think about how you would like your future to look like, and how you would like your data to be looked after, or looked at, and by whom. So just think about what you would like to be done with your data. Do you want everyone to know about it? Do you want an AI picture that looks really similar to the picture you took of you and your previous girlfriend? Who knows? Some people like that sort of stuff. I personally don't. It's up to you. So that's why all I'm asking you to do is think and take decisions. Don't just let it happen to you. That's all. Oh, that's my point. That's my only point, really.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to if you share anything, expect it to be made public, or would you be happy if it was made public? And that way, if anybody comes back with some deep fake photo, and it happens, people get cyberbullied with deep fake AI photos, where it makes them look in compromising position. You can confidently say, I've never published anything or ever taken anything, okay, that would put me in a compromising position. if somebody wants to try and share that, that's their choice. It's not. It's definitely not going to be me because I know, what I've shared with somebody else, and therefore what could possibly be in the public arena. Obviously, I don't know if someone's taken secret photos of me, but every time we step outside, the front door, it's possible that somebody's taking a photograph of you, or you in the background of somebody else's photograph, or something. But yeah, no, I think we need to be comfortable with who we are. I think we need to be comfortable with what we say, to anyone, and when we say it, that it's possible that it gets made public, and
Yes.
be comfortable with that if it ever happens.
Yes. And deepfakes are a thing. I don't know how they're going to play out. Um, my mind is going down a rabbit hole on deepfake revenge porn pictures and movies.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's a very, very dark hole, this one, from a legal perspective, because for a little while, if you went to court to make the person stop producing and sharing more of the deepfake pictures and videos, you actually had to prove that it is not you. And now, how do you prove that this naked body on the porn pictures is not you?
No, exactly.
Very, a very, very dark area, in my opinion, that yeah, the only way to not get into that, in my opinion, is just don't go near people who would be doing that. And it's really hard to know before the event.
But the point is, if somebody does share a deep fake photo, right, at the end of the day, it's just your face put on somebody else's body or an AI generated body. It's not you. And, anybody who looks at it and thinks it is you, right, either needs to trust the person who sent it to them or trust you, that it's not you. So there's no way we can control it because people can generate that. But the people we speak with and people we associate with need to be able to believe us that what we say, that's not me.
True,
Looking at it, it's literally just a photo with my face stuck on it.
true. But if it's the HR manager who has or who is interviewing you next week for that top job, what are they gonna think? It's a really, really, really difficult area and topic to talk about because there's so many nuances to it and situations that can come out of it.
No,
And
I understand that,
yeah,
and that's the thing. It's who do they trust? Do they trust the person that sent them the video, right? And really, are you really going to be trusting people that send you porn videos, or are they going to trust you in the interview?
I know what science suggests, and depending on if it's a man or a woman, so and the color of his skin comes into play as well. So
Mhm.
that's why I say it's a very dark hole. This one,
Yeah,
difficult to talk about and get to the bottom of it. Just don't put yourself in a situation where anybody could think it could ever be you. As Marcel says, make sure that people trust you, that you would never be doing something like that. Is the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
But anyways, as I said,
I
think for
think your
yourself. Sorry.
exactly. I think your summary, think for yourself, is the key message today.
Yes. Sorry, that was everything from me. Anything else from you?
No, that's what I'm saying. I think I'm just going to repeat what you just said earlier,
Okay.
and then you said it anyway. Is think for yourself. I think that's the key thing. Is think about it, research, what the options are, understand the implications, right, and be aware. And the key message from this forum is that anything that you send to anyone must be viewed as being public.
Correct. And with that, we're going to leave you. Join us in August, the 4th Tuesday in August at 4 p.m. UTC. So check out the time zone. And until then, enjoy summertime in the Northern Hemisphere and wintertime in the Southern Hemisphere. See you then. Bye bye.
Bye.